Hello and welcome to an overview of a program called the Verbarrator, brought to you by my website, teachingyourselfspanish.com. My name is Scott, and I'm here to give you an overview of this amazing program. It was designed specifically for helping you practice verb conjugation in Spanish, and it's the only program out there like it. It's just incredible. Before this, there was really it was really hard to um, get a good workout with the Spanish verb conjugations. And by using this program, you really become fluent in verb conjugation. By fluency, you basically can do it, start conjugating verbs without thinking about it. So it's kind of a difficult goal to achieve in Spanish for those without experience in the Romantic languages. But this tool, this Verbarrator, will allow you to get to that point of fluency much more quicker than anything. So it's a great tool to have, and it's easy to use, and I highly recommend it. So basically, I'm going to walk you through the program. Number 1 and number 2 and number 3. Those are the steps we're going to look at. First, we're going to look at up here across the top. The language mode, basically you're going to have two speakers, say a phrase, one in Spanish and one in English. So we'll look at that a little bit later, but you can select which one comes first. So it's a little more challenging to hear the English phrase and then come up with the Spanish equivalent, which is probably what most people will want to use. The pre-delay is a time in seconds that occurs between the English and then the Spanish. So you have 5 seconds to come up with the answer, and you can change that, of course. And then the post delay is the amount of time after the Spanish is read for you to repeat it, and then it'll move on to the next one after 3 seconds. So I like to keep it at 3 seconds just to help me practice saying saying things more quickly. Cycles is something I've never used, so it would just repeat whatever you have set up in your queue if you needed to repeat something over and over. The play order is basically, if you do it in order, it will just go down the queue and through each subject by order. I much prefer to use the random order. I think it's more challenging, and basically you want to be challenged in this program so you can improve more quickly. And the person filter is a great feature. So if, like, for example, I don't think I'm ever going to go to Spain, so I don't really need to learn the vosotros form. So I don't work with those. I can do anything but vosotros, which is great. Or you could, let's say you wanted to work with the nosotros command forms, for example, which are kind of distinct. You could set it up to work with just that. Or if you need to work with your tu or usted, or yeah, there's different options. And here you have basic 6. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I just set it up for all but vosotros, and that's pretty much all I need. So below here you could set up a phrase maker, which puts the verb that you're going to work with into a phrase, and that's really helpful. And then also it helps build some extra vocabulary words, because the phrase is going to contain usually a direct object or indirect object, which is going to be a new vocabulary word, and that stays fixed with each verb. So that's kind of a helpful mnemonic technique, so that you always have a little phrase associated with the verb that you're learning. You could skip the English track if you wanted to. I've never done that. Or you could omit the Spanish pronouns if you don't want to hear the yo or nosotros. That's something you could do. And then fitting into the window comes in handy if you want to enlarge the program into your screen, which I'm not going to do here because it will disrupt. Well, I'll do it just to show you. So okay, that may have disrupted the screen a little bit. Okay, so anyway, back to number 2, our tour, verb selection. So here we've got, there's over 500 verbs in this Verbarrator, and they're broken down into different categories. There's AR verbs, verbs that end in ER, verbs that end in IR, irregular, spell changing, stem changing, and reflexive. You can also just do all of them alphabetized. And let's say you're going to start with the AR verbs. You could either bring them all up, or you could start with the first 5. And what it did was it brought up the 5 verbs in English in the queue. And then let's listen to one. Let's start with the present tense. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead to 3. We're going to select the present tense.
They hug the dog.
Okay, so that was your English speaker. The English speaker is female. And now you come up with the answer. Ellos abrazan al perro.
Ellos abrazan el perro.
And that's the Spanish. Of course, you could say el perro or al perro. And that's the Spanish answer. And then you have 3 seconds to go on to the next one.
They clarify the assignment.
Here you would come up with ellos aclaran la tarea.
Ellos aclaran la tarea.
And so on. So here you've got about 40 in the queue when you only do 5 at a time. Okay, so up here is a custom verb selection, which is a great tool if you only want to work with certain verbs. Let's say the most practical verbs here is they set aside a separate group of 100 verbs that they consider to be the most practical ones to work on. So let's say for some reason it's not alphabetized, but let's say you wanted to work with specific verbs. You could single them out, and let's go to the AR verbs here. So here they are alphabetized, and you can see in English the translation. So there's quite a few in the AR category. So let's say we wanted to work with that one, and this verb, and this verb, and this verb. Let's say for some reason those are the verbs we're working with. Then you hit accept, and it brings those verbs up into your queue. And now let's say you've mastered the present tense, and you want to work on your preterite or your subjunctive. You can see here they've got pretty much everything. The only thing that I've noticed that's missing is the negative command forms, which are different in different for the to subject. So that's the only thing that I see missing. And then you can select several of them at once, and they'll randomize in between different tenses. So that's an incredible workout. Usually what I do is I'll just try to master one tense at a time, and then once I get to that point, then I'll start to mix and match them. So let's just do a few of these and see what happens.
I shortened the presentation.
Okay, predit. Yo acorté la presentación.
Yo acorté la presentación.
He will empty the wastebasket.
Él vaciará el cesto de basura.
Él vaciará el cesto de basura.
Okay, so that's it. That's your tour of the Verbarrator, brought to you by teachingyourselfspanish.com. It's a great tool. I highly recommend it. Thanks. Thanks for watching. Nos vemos. Ciao.